and welcome back to Morning Cafe, time for the current affairs program. And most of the times when it's Monday, we take a look at the events of the weekend in terms of politics and in terms of what has taken center stage, across the country. And that's exactly what we'll be doing in the next about 1 hour and 10 minutes. And joining me this morning, analyst Ben Kinuthia and Kaberia Bayu. I always find that a tongue twister. Ben, can you say Kaberia Bayu?
Kaberia Bayu.
Bayu.
That one.
So, Karibu Sana, gentlemen, thank you so much for the great, for your time, yeah?
Thank you
and we're
so
looking
much.
forward to a great session right here as we take a look at the events of the weekend. Pretty much unfortunate that we're still talking about politics. And this time around, politics of flouting rules, politics of going against the norms, politics of going against what you as legislators or you as leaders have crafted in terms of, laws and measures that are supposed to be taken, especially at this time of COVID-19. And we'll start off with the Tanga Tanga in Mulembe Nation. And we saw what happened. Was it on Saturday? Should have been on Saturday. The likes of Boni Halwale, traversing the Mulembe Nation, trying to sell the agenda of the Rift Valley person. Remember what they told the Askari, well, unaongea kama Mnadi, and we're trying to front your agenda, and you're going against your agenda. What do you make of the events of the weekend?
First and foremost, a very good morning, and I'm happy to be here. I think the first thing that needs to happen is we need to commend that policeman.
Yeah.
Because he was not thinking as a Kalenjin, he was not thinking as a Luya, he was not thinking as a tribal kingpin.
Right.
He was thinking as an OCPD whose primary duty is to protect lives. And people think the protection of lives is just lives and property.
Yeah.
Even keeping people safe from corona is protection of life.
Yeah.
So we must commend that OCPD. And I remember him telling his officers to arrest these people because what he found them doing was wrong.
Right.
And I think our leaders have gotten to the point where, they've gone on sleep mode, they put an alarm bell, it's ringing 2022. So when it rings, they wake up. They're not interested in anything else. They're interested in the next election. They're interested in balkanizing the nation.
Yeah.
Because if you ask me, what are Luya leaders doing right now? Telling people that they want William Ruto for president in 2022 or they want so-and-so in president for 2022. I think leaders right now should be telling their people between now and 2022, it's possible to build a road. It's possible to connect 5 homes to electricity. It's possible to create employment for 15, 20 young people in every ward. And I think this is the conversation. I wish that meeting was being disrupted because they had met to discuss on how they are going to create just 10 jobs for young people.
Right.
But they were meeting to discuss on how they are going to create 1 plum job for an already rich politician in the name of William Ruto.
What does it speak about tribalism in the country? And it needs, and honestly, politics of ethnicity and this being fronted by other people, by leaders actually for that matter, where we're talking about it's good to pride in your tribe, it's good to pride in your ethnic background, but what we're trying to sell right now is totally animosity, as one would want to argue. And when you see such utterances saying that, we're unaenda against Mutuenyu, I mean, where does it place us as a nation?
Well, thank you so much for having me
You're welcome.
on this show. Let me say good morning to the viewers. So, as he has put it clearly that there's a lot of divisive politics which are aligned towards personal interest as opposed to the public interest.
Yeah.
And we've seen a lot of ethnicity playing around because when you look at the Mulembe Nation, as you put in the first question, is that it's one of vote-rich regions but which are not really united.
Yeah.
Because we've seen a lot of divisions, because we've seen the like of Musalia Mudavadi, Moses Wetangula, and so many others having similar interests despite coming from the same region.
Yeah.
But still, I want to look at on the other side of the coin. We've seen the way policemen came maybe to disperse the meeting. But also looking, there is something I would call the selective justice. Because at the same time, Eugene Wamalo and the likes were still having their own meeting, which were uninterrupted with even bigger masses. But now, on contrary, when we see other people having some similar meetings, we are having some disruptions. I'm not trying to justify the need for having the meeting, but if it's a regulation, let it be regulation regardless of who is the person doing that. And with that, to be able now at least to have a very united nation, which is focusing on saving lives.
So law enforcers in this case, are they going against what they're supposed to do? And when you look at that, do you then say that there is some level of political witch hunt? Let's overlook selective justice for a moment. Is there a political witch hunt on how this is being dealt with?
I don't think I would call it political witch hunt. You see, right now, people forget one thing, that government needs to move on. For example, the Ministry of Agriculture still has got policies to formulate.
Yeah.
They still have to do public participation in the formulation of those policies. So wherever a cabinet minister is involved in a public meeting, it's assumed.
It's hard to tell what exactly.
It's assumed that this person is running a government affair.
Right.
And this person is doing something that is essential that must be done. For example, there was the removal of traders in Gikomba.
Yeah.
This is something that requires consultation with them. If the minister in charge would have a meeting with this kind of people, it would be considered to be government moving forward.
Right.
The problem I have is when, now look at the John Waluke thing. This is a convict.
Right.
You know, we are not, you know, the minute the court declares you guilty, wewe unakuwa mabusu, you are a convict, you are guilty, you are a thief. Now we can confidently call him on national TV, he's a thief.
Yeah.
Because we are not afraid. I'm a lawyer, I can tell you. The minute you've been convicted by a court of law, now we don't say there was an assumption.
Right, it is alleged.
It was alleged.
Yeah.
No, you are a convict. Wewe ni mwizi wa public funds, and the court has declared that. Nobody can undeclare that. Yeah. Now, when you come in the guise of holding prayers for a convict, is an insult to us Kenyans. Because the whole idea was that if someone is guilty of a crime, let them go to jail. I have not seen those politicians holding prayers because somebody who had stolen another person's goat has been arrested and been sentenced to 15 years in jail. So instead of having prayers, in fact, they should have been having a harambe if they want to help him. So this is a lot of nonsense.
Let us look at these two scenarios. Yeah. Scenario number one, a CS who's from the Mulembe Nation and is day in, day out in Mulembe Nation addressing issues at the level of Mulembe Nation. And the argument is that this person is projecting or continuing the work of the government. And this scenario where someone has been convicted or maybe has been, of course, alleged or purported to have conducted something to do with corruption and is in this line of what one would consider as tanga-tanga. And tanga-tanga is one line that is being against, you know, like the government is against this line. Okay, though tanga-tanga is part and parcel of the government, but it looks like there's a political witch hunt leveled against this particular person. So in these two scenarios, would we say that we should be blind enough to say that, you know, this CS is projecting issues to do with 2022 as opposed to focusing on matters development? Would we say that we are blind enough to overlook the fact that there could be some level of political witch hunt and selective justice in a scenario where a member of parliament is targeted because they're supporting a certain person?
You see, first and foremost, we don't have leaders.
Yeah.
All these are crooks.
All right.
Let's start there.
Okay.
Because if these were leaders, what I have seen in the Western region is something very commendable. It is one bloc that never votes like sheep.
Yes.
They don't move to one basket. It means the Mulembe Nation is made of people who think. It's made of people who are democratic. And the Mulembe Nation votes for other tribes. I mean, they give Raila more votes than they gave their own, Musalia Mudavadi.
Yeah.
So the Mulembe Nation, in fact, if anything, what we should be showing Kenyans is how to go the Mulembe Nation way. That you can have a Kikuyu who can vote for Raila, and you can have a Luo who can vote for Uhuru, when Raila is still vying for the same seat. So we need to commend what is happening in the Mulembe. And what is confusing these people is they are not understanding that the people within Western themselves have made up their minds.
Right.
That they are never going to be herded together like sheep. And that's what is confusing Boni Halawale and Akina, Eugene Wamala and all the others. Because they're not understanding why they cannot be able to herd the Mulembe Nation together, to think like sheep, to be guided into one direction and to be taken into one slaughterhouse.
In what has been considered rosy and good, and you know, we know very well that in as much as we're trying to run away from the tribal politics, at some point in time when you have, that's why we talk about regional, you know, representation and all that. So at some point in time, you want to have a Kikuyu president. At a point in time, you want to have a Kalenjin president. You want to have a Luhya president and everything. So when we talk about the democracy in Mulembe Nation, is it an undoing to them? Will they ever see a situation whereby someone from the Mulembe Nation is at the top of the helm in the country? If we are to go by what Ben is saying.
I like the way Ben has put it clearly about the situation in the Mulembe Nation, and he has tried to bring in the positive side of it, trying to bring the democracy and sanitizing the whole thing. But to me, I have a contrary feeling towards that, because once there's so much democratic space which bring a lot of disunity in the place. Looking at the past general election whereby and trying to front, actually they had 6 presidential candidates who were aspiring to be the president. And that brought a lot of divisive politics because they could not stand and say, this is our kingpin. Looking at other places, as much as there's the democratic space for you to think liberally, at least there's that leader who is the chef and at least is able to show you the direction and negotiate on your behalf. And that's the Kenyan politics. As much as trying to bring the integrity and the sanity side of it, there is that aspect you cannot run away from. The Kenyan politics, the way it has been set from independence, is that the voting has been done along the tribal lines, and even the coalitions and the political parties, they are all built towards ethnic direction. Look at even the Jubilee, the one, and the ODM, which purport to be Orange Democratic Movement. I actually say that the D is silent in ODM. There is not much that democratic space. But looking at it, there is a lot of ethnic politics, and also in all other political parties. So it's something which we cannot purport and to claim that it does not exist. It exists, and the only challenge we have as Kenyans now is try to bring a new way of thinking, a new generation, a new crop of leaders will be able now to think outside the ethnic line.
All right, before we go to the KANU aspect, because I know that we'll be discussing, is that the very same reason why the Mount Kenya region is in search of a kingpin? Is scared right now that they do not have one person who's going to, take the space of President Uhuru Kenyatta as it stands?
Okay.
And would you then say that they lack that democracy in the sense of, just accepting that, as the Mount Kenya region, we can vote for anybody in the country. It doesn't really have to be about us.
3 months to the 2013 general elections, Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta was not even aware he's going to be president. Actually, he had even fronted Musalia.
Let
him be. And so if within 3 months, it had been decided that Uhuru can be kingpin, and he became kingpin, and he led Central Kenya, and today he commands a very huge following throughout. I mean, you can see how Central Kenya voted behind Uhuru Kenyatta in the previous election. It tells you that sometimes we jump early. And I like the way Gideon Moi is saying.
Would you not say that
you're already putting your best dance move, and he's just tuning the guitar? I think Central Province right now is not even supposed to be thinking of who is going to succeed Uhuru Kenyatta after. Because, as I told you, this stupid tribal politics has to come to an end at some point. In the year 2002, when Kibaki became president, there were only 5 million voters, or thereabout. He left with 3.6 million, and then the others followed. Now, the following year, from 5 million, we had about 9 million voters. And then from 9 million voters, the next one had about 14 million, and then this particular one. It tells you that the people who are increasing are not older people. They are younger people. And these younger people who are coming in by the hata ukiongelesha Kiluya ama Kijaluo ama Kikuyu hawataki, they are not interested. These people will respond to you in Swahili or English or some Sheng. Na anasikia Kiluya, na anasikia Kijaluo, na hataki.
But just for how long should we wait for that?
So what I'm telling you is even this coming election, the number of those people who are voting in that direction, because if it was 5 million, the tribal ones around 202. Right now, we shall have a voter base of more than 20 million voters.
But just
if we shall have 20 million voters, more than 10 million would be this generation that does not care whether they are Luya or Masai or Kisii or Kikuyu.
Interesting.
And those guys will be looking. You saw that time when Peter Kenneth was buying and guys were saying, an Obama moment, an Obama moment. And people are starting to look at what is being sold as opposed to what tribe they are coming from. I'm telling you, in 2022, it will be the beginning of an election where young people, about 10 million people, are more than those tribal thinking goons and will tilt. But they don't be surprised if they do like Rajalomanana, where they just vote a DJ or a music. You'll be surprised. You will see one of these hip hop artists in Nairobi becoming president, and
now,
you'll be surprised with your ethnic balkanization.
And I'm not trying to say that they're not in the best of capacity to hold such a huge office or in the national office. But then what will that mean? And I think we'll be coming that as we take a look at the youthful leadership. But just on that very note,
you'll vote SpongeBob.
Do you know what that means? Now, looking at what Ben says, it's very important that we look at how much, of course, the youth are interested in politics. Because, in as much as they hold a majority, or they are the largest number, again, the registered voters for that matter, you realize that a majority of them are so much not interested in matters politics. If they are, then this is based on what their parents are saying, based on the interests of their parents. And I think that's what was, said last time we had a vote in terms of, the statistics that came on board, that youths are there, they hold the largest number of registered voters, but they will only vote based on what their parents will say. So if my mom says it is Uhuru, they will go Uhuru way. If my mom says it's Raila, it will go Raila way. So what will it take for us to twist that and get our youths from that point where they have to have decisions made by their parents and focus on getting the interest of politics and making that vote themselves?
Okay, thank you so much for that. But first, allow me to comment on the Mount Kenya thing.
Yes.
Because I come from the region.
We have time to discuss the Mount Kenya. There's a point where we're discussing Kanu, so just hold your thoughts for that. And then I'll allow you to wait in on that. Yes.
Okay, fine. Let me now come back to the issue of the youth. And it's true that the youthful population is so big in Kenya, and this is a population which is so much enlightened and informed, and so much does to bring change. But now the problems comes when we have the ambitions, the aspiration, the need, but really we don't have that unit of purpose. When I say unit of purpose, it means that you are looking at the issue beyond the person driving the issue. For example, as a young person, I should be so much liberal-minded to think that if now, let's say, Raila Odinga or Uhuru Kenyatta or whoever is carrying a negative agenda, I should not support it simply because that's the person who belongs to my tribe or who maybe I support the political party. This is what is missing in the youth. One reason is because of the vulnerability of the young people. It's a population which is not so much empowered in terms of finance, joblessness, and all that. So making them vulnerable for things like handout. And we have seen the voter bribery mostly is with the young people. These are the people who are used as the keyboard warriors to insert in Facebook and do all that. And it's the high time we just take charge as the young people, because if we really rely on this, the own crops we're talking about, they'll be able now to use us to bring in the agenda, and we'll have the same vicious cycle going on and forth. So it's upon us, the young people, to be able to be angry enough. I don't know whether we are really angry enough seeing that we are suffering. The unemployment rate is so high. The mental illness, there's a lot of suicide cases coming from the young people because of frustrations. People are graduating every day, but there are no jobs. People are starting their businesses which are collapsing and all that. So once we are angry enough, where you see we are the ones suffering and being misused, we won't even require legislation and policies for us to bring the change. We'll just be driven intrinsically for us to bring that change, and that's the time Kenya will have a new look of leadership.
Well, interesting.
In 30 seconds, in 30 seconds. In addition to this is what you're not understanding. We are already there.
Yes.
It's not we are not getting, we are already there. How did Sonko become governor?
And I think that was my name.
I met guys saying, Governor is Sonkore. And those guys were like, they can identify with him, they resonate with him, they see he looks like them. Amevaa shati na tai, and then uku jeans na ikona machine, they could identify with him. How did Jaguar become MP? I remember the things that were happening in Nairobi. Jaguar became MP because the young people, I mean, minor commander spent a lot of money, a lot more money than you'd have thought. But young people still said ni Jaguar.
And you see, that's exactly what I wanted to
what
tell
I'm saying
you.
in 2022, there are people who I unfortunately think should not be advising the DP. These people are telling him, tutafute kura za Wajaluo, kura za Waluya, and these are the Halwales of this world shaking one leg like
So
and those Waluya, if you go to Western, they are looking at some funny guy. He's probably a DJ or a thespian. Whether Cleophas Malala is my friend. He was a thespian. He was running New Era Thespians. And they decided we are voting for a thespian to become an MCA. And the same thespian is now Senator for Kakamega. He's only 34. Against you can imagine in Western Province, the whole of Kakamega voting for a 34-year-old to become their senator. All I'm trying to tell them is, please, 2022 is not going to be the same game plan. People still need to have a new mindset. We are putting old wine in new wine skins, and it's not gonna work. So this is the time for them to think for a paradigm shift. Otherwise, they'll be shocked to see a guy like Nameless being voted for president.
But the greatest undoing today, or what is purported to be the greatest undoing for women, is the fact that upon affirmative action and the push, we got the women rep seat. And sadly, it is argued that they've not done much to prove to us that we honestly still need to hold that seat. Same applies to the senatorial seats and all that. So today, we're talking about the youths. And let's loop in this issue of Sakaja and what played out over the weekend and the numerous youths that we've elected in. I'll tell you also, my old MCA was elected, on such basis, on such grounds. He was working on a car wash, and everyone was like, car wash, because he was young and the youth could resonate with him. But today, you go there and the tone that they speak of the very same person that they were holding so dear is totally different. So when you look at how much has been done and how much, of course, we've had the youth on board, do you suppose they've done well in terms of proving to us that maybe, yes, we need that shift and in totality get youthful leaders on board?
Interesting. I think the first thing that we need to look at is the fact that the young people want one of their own. The problem comes if one of their own went into that position because it was available, not because they were born for leadership.
Yes.
But let me tell you, when opportunity meets preparedness, when a young person who is good enough comes on board, and at the time when people are ready for that young leadership, they do well. But for information, Super Senator Sakaja has done pretty well. And in all these years, this is the first time I'm seeing something that is not so pleasant about him. It's human.
Is that a polite? Is that human or a polite way of telling us that we need to rethink?
I don't think it's excusable.
Yeah.
But it's not as atrocious as what these older people are doing to us. These other people are actually killing us, literally. So I think this was a very personal thing.
Yeah.
It was a misconduct, if it did happen, and if it is true indeed, it was a misconduct. And I think if I were him, I would have come out differently.
Are you still asking
if I was Sakaja as a young person?
Sakaja says no, yes.
If I was Sakaja as a young person, I would have come and said, "Hey, Nairobians, hapo kuna kitu ilienda vibaya na naomba msamaha." Let me tell you, there's nothing that overpowers people like when you come and say, "I think I have made a mistake and I am sorry, and it's not going to happen again." That's what Michuki did. Michuki was a very ferocious guy. Then when they showed his torn socks, he said, "Now today I have new ones." And thank you very much to the media
for laughed about it.
People thought that Michuki will come guns blazing. He said, "Oh, it was torn. I'm very sorry. I promise I'll never wear torn socks again." Then Akina Nyambane brought him socks and gave him. He didn't fight it. He said, "I'm very sorry. I made a mistake. Now I have new ones." And he showed the new ones.
And
that story died.
That's
what Sakaja should have done. He should have said, "I think as a young person I made a mistake. That was a miscalculated thing. I am sorry to the people who've been looking up to me, and it will not happen again." That story dies. There's nothing you can do about someone who's apologized.
And you know what Super Senator did is that he decided to say that, no, I wasn't arrested, and going against that. Probably that's the reason why Ben today says, if at all, it happened. Even after we watched the video, even after, even before I watched the video, I was like, even Sakaja, anasema nini, only to find whatever it is that happened.
Yeah.
So when you look at such a scenario, I mean, Nairobi leadership first. Is it in test?
Well, I think when we want to touch the issue of Nairobi leadership, Nairobi is a very cosmopolitan city which brings in every person, every community, like every type of people. So it's not a place you can say this is purely for this certain of people, certain group of people. But now looking at the new changes in Nairobi, I've been walking through the CBD in the past couple of days, and I've seen a lot of changes. And I'm sure everyone has noticed there are cabros on the ways, at least there's new fencing and all the cleaning because of the change, the Nairobi management system. But always I tend to look at things beyond what is brought at the face value. Because sometimes it's more than what we are, it's being portrayed or what they want us to see. Sonko is not that Sonko was not working. I have a lot of respect for Sonko because of the way sometimes he has a lot of touch with the people of Nairobi. But now having the NMS in place, it has really trying to overshadow Governor Sonko. The reason is this. Looking at a couple of years, there was that proposal by the government to bring Nairobi County, the Nairobi city, in national government. There was that, a lot of things, a lot of effort was put. And now this time when there is NMS, is the time now the government want to prove that the county, the devolution is not working proper for Nairobi. And this can be justified by the changes you are seeing. So I want to assure you that today, at some time, some few years to come or some few months to come, there will be either proposal or legislation to bring Nairobi County as a function in national government.
government.
And this is something which the government has been fighting for a very long time, since the time Peter Kennedy was not able to clinch the governorship position. So sometimes it's not that where the way we are, it's being trying to show that Sonko was not working, Sonko is not competent enough. As much as we've seen there's a lot of development because of the NMS, I can confidently say that most of that funding even is coming from the national government.
This is where I want to disagree with you thoroughly and completely. And I want to show you a path that you have refused to think about. That huge truck you see called Sonko Rescue, it's a 10-wheeler. That thing is not anything less than 10, 11 million at wherever they buy them from. Now, this guy wanted to become a demigod, and that's why I have a problem with Sonko. He wants to bring water to the people of Mudhurwa every day so that they can come with a begging bowl. A borehole costs 3 million to sink, complete with a tank.
Without, you can
So
easily...
if he really wanted, he would have sunk a borehole, put up a tank, and put pipes and served people with water.
Lifetime
But because he wanted to become a demigod, he'll buy a lorry worth 3 times the cost of a borehole, so that every Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, he's delivering water to people, and they are worshipping him. They don't want underground pipes because you can't go branding underground pipes. Sonko. So they want to come and give you water so that you can always depend on them. I thank God for NMS. The general is not even putting his photos all over. The general doesn't even pay people on social media. We always see sponsored Sonko team. He's not sponsoring anything. He sank 93 boreholes in 100 days. It has never happened. Because he knew the people don't need a lorry branded Sonko bringing them water every day. The people just need to open the tap and the water comes. So let me tell you, Sonko has failed. He's thoroughly failed. And the reason he has failed is this. When you hear people say that level of education is important in life, it matters a lot. And I'll break it down very simply. My son is in class 7. Very soon he's going to be in class 8. Kwa hesabu yao, hawajakubalishwa wafanye any maths that goes beyond 5 million shillings. Because that's the comprehension of a class 8. So wakifanya hesabu, not more than 5 million shillings. Now, Sonko's education is in dispute. Even his classmates in high school are not known. So if you have never sat in a class where you did any maths that went up to 10 million shillings, so that you can understand that it's possible to have 6 zeros following number 1, that makes it 10 million. It's actually 7 zeros. Now this guy comes, he's made governor for Nairobi. And he sees 11 zeros following a number. How will he understand how 11 zeros are supposed to follow a number? And he's never seen them in a class.
You know,
that's why, by the time you're doing Form 4, at least you understand what a billion is. By the time you're doing university, your mind is able to understand how you can come up with 20-25 billion. You have MCA sitting at county level. Mtu amefika standard 4. This guy is standard 4. He has never seen a million in writing.
Is it not what
Wanaenda could discuss billions, and they are the ones who are paying doctors.
Yeah.
So this kind of nonsense is not acceptable. Sonko needs to go home yesterday. In fact, I regret the fact that the president had to save him from impeachment. He should be impeached, and then that case should be followed, and if he's found guilty, he should go to jail with Waluke and all the others. We don't need such leaders in Kenya.
So should we have Sakaja around or Apeleke quarantine? I had someone in the morning.
Sakaja also needs to pay for his sins.
Yes.
He needs to pay for his sins. For what he did. If the punishment for what he did is quarantine, he needs to pay for that. Yeah.
All right, well, let's drop on Sakaja, this issue on Sakaja, because, I mean, again, you spoke about boreholes and everything, and someone in the morning here was like, you know, if this is Nairobi and we're still struggling with salty water and everything, then you wonder what is left of the rest of the other parts of the country, like Turkana and the likes and everything, which is unfortunate, subject to discussion some other time. I would have wanted us to discuss this faithful who've decided to keep off church fast, but let's cross over to Kazim Taani. Now that we are talking about development for the people and everything. Is Kazim Taani a shame?
Well,
or it's too early to judge it?
Well, I would say that Kazim Taani is not a shame, because looking at the timing of the Kazim Taani, we've seen sometime during this time of COVID, the government has really done some effort beyond the normal, at least to try to bring in the cash flow and just like a caution for people, because most of the people have been left joblessness. And it's true, you can confirm, even for especially the hospitality sector and so many other sectors have been affected. And as a way of cushioning that, government has been coming up with ways. And even before Kazim Taani came, there was some effort for the government to be able to look at the vulnerable people in the community, whereby they were given 1,000 or so through the M-Pesa. It's not just that the government really is doing that as out of the normal. It's just something to caution people from the poverty and all that, because
the reason why I'm asking whether it's a shame is because, yes, it could be serving the purpose, but it's not serving the purpose on the right people who need this. And that's the reason why I said this, because we have heard stories like from the time the first phase of Kazim Mtaani was rolled out. And the complaints on ground is that the youths are saying that, you know what, this is, chiefs are literally shipping people from other regions, from other areas, bringing them to different regions, and, you know, to benefit from these processes. So then you realize the people that this is meant to benefit do not literally benefit. Now that you mentioned something to do with cautioning the vulnerable and everything, there's still a problem today, because the vulnerable are complaining they've not been able to get anything from the government. Instead, different people are getting this, as we loop in Ben.
Yeah, this is very simple.
A quick one, Ben, just a quick one, please, so that I can be able to bring in that.
Yeah.
I think the intention of the government was very clean, to be able to caution people. But now there is the system which they have put. They have tried to bring the service very at the literal base of the common one.
Yes.
That is using the local administration and administration of the chief. But we've seen some situation whereby chiefs are taking advantage of the situation. And this is not the first time. We had the time of Huduma Number registering the cashiers and all that which happened. The chiefs, there was claims that chiefs were able to bring in the people in their community, the people of their families and all that.
Yeah.
The same thing came again when the people are being written to be given their 1,000. In fact, in some places we had even people banning the chiefs' the motorcycles and all that.
Right.
So this is not an exceptional and isolated case. It does not mean that because this is happening that this is purely a sham. It means that the government needs to put MMD mechanism, monitoring and evaluation mechanism, so that it cannot be misused. And at the time also people get enlightened by the government that this is the criteria we are using, because the power belongs to the people. Once I know that the chief has been able to bring people of his family inside, I have a reporting mechanism whereby I can be able to report, to voice my concern that these are the people who are being favored. Because if the intention of the government is maintained, I tell you, Kazim Mtaani to be able to improve the livelihood, and I've seen them cleaning the road and doing a lot of things, and which is something very commendable. And time when we were in school, in primary school, there's something we are calling duty services. When the schools are closed, we'd go TED, the compound at least dust the areas and all that. Because now the schools have been closed for 3 months. And some of the classrooms are not even the bricks classrooms.
Right.
You can imagine a timber classroom, and there's all the termites and all that. Kazim Mtaani will come at least and bring a lot of cleaning in that place, which will bring about the value to the schools and all the community.
And let's not focus much on hitting the chiefs. I had an MCA here the other day, and he was complaining that, you know, well, the national government asked for the list, and the youths would need this, and they collected the names and they presented it to the government. Up until today, there's a lot of confusion. They do not know. So this is the leadership speaking of how much they have no idea of what is ongoing. What happens to the common man? The youths who keep coming to their offices and asking, kwani mheshimiwa fomu ni gani, kuliendaje na ulichukua majina tuliandika and all that.
First and foremost, I'm thoroughly ashamed. I am thoroughly ashamed that 60 years after independence, we have leaders who can think the way our leaders are thinking. That you wake up one day and come up with a program called Kazim Mtaani. You should even be ashamed before you even put it on national TV. They should be thoroughly ashamed. This is the reason. Number one, it is a program dependent on the failure of a county government to clean where it's supposed to clean. So first we give money to county governments to clean up our places. They don't clean up the places. So the places become dirty. We look for more money from the national government. Instead of impeaching and firing these governors and throwing them into jail for keeping us in dirty, filthy environments, we look for more money from other places and come and expose our young people without masks, without gloves, without slashers, without jembes, into cleaning mitaros that should have been cleaned by a county government that had been given money for cleaning in the first place, and has been collecting taxes from us very unashamedly. And jaribu kukosa kulipa license kidogo, wanakuja wanaruka takataka wakiingia kwako kuokota pesa ya license, na hiyo takataka hawajaokota. Then they tell the national government there's something called Kazim Mtaani, bring young people muokote hii takataka, juu kazi yetu kama county ni kuchukua pesa ya license. Shame on them. Number two, Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi, Tanzania, Ethiopia, all these countries around us, including Congo, are buying toothpicks from China. If we had leaders, and I say we have goons, and I submit without fear that we have goons, we have people without brains, completely, totally devoid, pandeina, shimo tu, nothing. If we had leaders, ukiangalia on YouTube, kamashini ka kutengeneza toothpicks, ni kadogo hivi. What we would have been doing is importing from China, not the toothpicks, but the technology to make toothpicks. Because it takes one fool to import a container of toothpicks. It would take 10,000 young people to make a container of toothpicks. We would become suppliers of toothpicks in East African region, including Rwanda, Burundi, Zaire, Congo, all those countries I have mentioned. We are not doing that. We are buying handkerchiefs from China 50 years after independence. We cannot make a bicycle 50 years after independence. Kazi Mtaani should be about us thinking as a region. How do we empower our young people so that they can make... Yes, we saw someone making a convertible seat that went trending. That's a person who's got the capacity to make a bicycle if they were empowered to make a bicycle. But if you're saying Kazi Mtaani is to look for money from national government, to come and give young people, to fight over it, about a failure of a county government that has already been given resources to do that, and they are not doing it, I'm ashamed to be living in this generation.
And just how much are these people getting, the youth?
It's 500 shillings, 455 shillings.
And then you ask yourself, how much can you do in
So if you want to empower these young people, bairo, imeshikwa na Linda. Aki, you need to go to YouTube. You see some of the machines that China and India is using to make a pen.
Thing.
It's like a simple thing on a table. So you come and say, this youth group here will be making viral pens. So we need to, now we become a small you don't need a huge factory. You have a small tabletop machine that helps you make toothpicks. So this group is making toothpicks and packing them and sealing them. The other one is making biros. The other small things that are needed in the whole of the Eastern African region. So we become a manufacturing hub. But what are we doing? Tunafagia mitaro in a very stupid way. Unatoa takataka kwa mtaro unaweka kando. Hakuna lori inakuja kuchukua. Kunanyesha inarudi ndani. Kesho mnatoa pesa nyingine ya serikali. I am thoroughly ashamed to be living in a generation where leaders think like that.
I think that is a futuristic plan. That's a long-term thinking or a long-term plan. But I think the thing I was trying to allude is that the government has a current situation at hand. People have lost jobs. It's good, yes, we manufacture toothpicks and all that. And I've really been supporting innovation and invention of such things. Because and it's something, this is something long-term and something sustainable.
But just how sustainable is the Kazi Mtaani, even if it's coming in to just give us a short-term solution? I mean, because when we're looking at the long-term, we know very well that that's the most important thing. You'd rather sleep hungry today, knowing that tomorrow you're guaranteed of food. You will work so hard, looking forward to tomorrow. But these young people are working so hard, but are scared of what tomorrow has to offer them.
And I think, because answering that question, this is the fact that Kazi Mtaani, it's not a long-term project which will go maybe next year and all those times. It's just something for this short time during this COVID time. But I'm also happy that because the government has been able also to put some mechanisms so that I don't know how much effective it is, at least to bring in the issue of innovation. We saw the other day the ICT CS, Mosheru, was trying to bring in the issue about the online working and all that, the spaces which youth can be able to mentor, to major in and at least may be able to make an income. These are something which governments should even be able to make more and more sustainable. But now for this situation where we are in the current COVID situation, Kazi Mtaani, it's something which was its worth, and it's something which I think it's right at this time.
Let me indulge you a bit. If there was to be an election tomorrow, how long do you think it would take to bring BVR kits into Kenya? I can assure you, not more than 24 hours.
It will be here.
But there are young people who are hungry, and it's not possible to import a toothpick making machine, which is 1,000 times simpler than a BVR kit. Okay? They are not able to import that within 3 months. But they are able to import. I'm telling you, if there was a referendum next week and we needed to import printed bulk paper, full color with Ruto, Raila, whatever, trust you me, within 48 hours, everything will have been done, including procurement and shipping it to JKI.
And the main reason...
But when we talk of young people, that we want to bring like a small machine that can sew a shoe Kijana akuwe tu na kafactory kake kwa kutengeneza viatu. It becomes a problem. They say it's a short term, sijui long term. Hakuna kelele kama hiyo. Those guys you are seeing, they are not interested in us. And they're not interested in young people. And unfortunately, they do not even have an idea of what it would take to emancipate the young people of this country from their problems.
All right, before we talk Mount Kenya, let's talk COVID-19. And the main reason why we're here today in terms of not figuring out what is happening, I know that COVID-19 is an issue globally. I know if we were well prepared, if we were looking at a long-term, a scenario where we would ensure that we make the best of our health systems and all that, then probably the burden would not have been as hard as it is. And these are the projections that there are likelihoods that 41 million Kenyans are going to contract COVID-19. Well, much as maybe one would argue that those are just ways of instilling fear, there are the projections that are there at hand. And clearly, we do not have the capacity to deal with this because, well, every other time the leadership then thought of short-term solutions as opposed to long-term solutions.
Well, I think one of the things which I've liked about the preparedness for the government is the way they have been able to at least be able to support the county government to be able to add those cases at the county level.
Yeah.
Because initially, when at the onset of these things, we had Bagadi Hospital, which was, I think, the only one which was reserved for that. That time we did not have many cases. But looking at even the counties and the level 5 and the other types of hospitals, I think this time they have really tried. I'm not saying that they are really perfect in this, but they have really tried in terms of increasing the number of ICU beds and also trying to bring in other mechanisms and policies which is really going to support the people. And I saw the other day the COVID team is doing some county tour. This is to check the preparedness of the counties, and there have been analysis on which county is more prepared, which has more bed capacity. And when this information was brought to the public domain, there was a lot of criticism and pressure to the governors. Why is it that we have 10 ICU beds when other counties like Muranga have almost 300 beds? So I think the government has really tried at the county government, but also this is the time to look at the sustainable and long-term things. Not about the daily briefings on today we have 600 confirmed cases, 12 fatalities and all that. That's not enough because sometimes we have a government driving more fear than the solutions because we are being told that if you don't do this, this is happening. So it's more consequential in case you get it. So the government is the high time. They are able also to incorporate the things of like community policing, the private sector, because this is not a war for the government only. Each and every person has responsibility as an individual at the family level, at the community level. So that if somebody is not having, let's say, a face mask or even sanitizing and all that, the public institutions, if we have churches which are having more than the capacity, government may not be at a position to attend each and every church. But if the community is given a structure to be able to monitor and report that and even enforce that, I tell you, I will have a situation whereby the situation is so much in control, and that's all we'll be able now to be able at least to manage the extent of the COVID-19.
Look at our population and the numbers that are being projected, that 41 million Kenyans are likely to get COVID-19. It's almost like the entire country will.
Your Excellency, the President, you have a problem. And you have a huge problem because the people advising you on how to manage COVID-19 are the people who have hospital beds on the high seas coming. So they tell you that for a county to be prepared to deal with COVID-19, what they need is beds. And you need 300 beds minimum per county. And the guy telling him that probably has got so many beds on the high seas coming this way. I can tell you for free, Your Excellency, the President.
So they're trying to find business.
What we need in terms of dealing with COVID-19 is not that Kenyans become sick, that they may lie on those beds that are coming, that they may lie on those beds that counties are preparing, that they may lie on those beds that 5 billion has been allocated for. That's not what we need. What we need is a government that promised something small, a face mask. They said they are going to distribute face masks. Hawajapea even one children's home. I want to be corrected if I'm one children's home. If indeed the face mask is going to protect us from COVID-19, why do you want to buy a bed for 180,000 as opposed to coming and giving those vulnerable Kenyans face masks? They freed ethanol that had been brought in the tons, that had been held in ports because it was illegal. They said on national TV that we are going to free this ethanol so that it goes into the market, so that people can be able to get sanitizers. And because the government believed the sanitizers have got the capacity to protect us from COVID-19, which I believe they do. Because tangu tuanze kusanitize na kuosha mikono, hospitals are complaining, hawana wateja, watu wapati diarrhea, wapati typhoid, wapati sijui nini. People are not going to hospital, hata homa kwetu hatupati. So it tells you that the Ministry of Health needs to change their thinking. From a Ministry of Health that reacts to the fact that we have COVID-19 in the country, to a Ministry of Health that says, wait a minute, what if we start a community health program where we ensure mtu hana takatake kwake nje, mtu hana uchafu, mtu ananawa, mtu akona maji. If we do that, 70% of the people who are in hospitals will not be going to hospitals. So the bed capacity we have in this country, I dare submit, is enough.
All right.
What we need is, wapi ile sanitizer mlitudanganya mtatupea jameni? You know, Jack Ma gave a plane ziko wapi?
Zilipotea. They acknowledge that they ilipotea.
So,
they accept.
Ilipotea. In a country like this, a plane, and let me tell you, if you want to know that haikupotea, iba kuku ya jirani, my friend. Your neighbor's chicken. Your neighbor's chicken. Yeah. The chief knows even the name of your late grandmother. They will find you. Lakini ndege imeingia JKIA, kuna customs, kuna kitu, kuna pula.
At a time when we need this the most.
Masks ziko wapi? And this is what we need the most. Please, stop buying into this thing. Unaona ati serikali wakisema they are going into count. What level of preparedness? The level of preparedness is they have masks they should have given us that they haven't. They have sanitizers they should have given us that they haven't. Yeah. They don't care about this nation. And if they do, they are misadvising. The president means well. They are telling him you need more ambulances. For what? You wait until people are sick, you need more ambulances to hire them at $1 million shillings a month per ambulance. Kwani kona nini jamani? You need airtime for 4,000 shillings per phone per day.
Phone call,
4,000 per phone per day. Hii yangu kieka 4,000 hata hizi tuweze share. It will be too heavy. Yeah? So this notion that they are driving into our heads is not working.
All right.
And we need to think from where we are. And that's why they say we have a better view of the valley. Those who are on top of the hill. And those who are at the bottom of the valley have a better view of the hill. Please, Mr. President, disband that committee. If you can, tomorrow morning, start looking for younger people with better brains, people who can see tomorrow better. And we shall tell you that prevention is better than cure any day.
All right. And of course, prevention, in most cases, as they would say, is indeed a long-term plan for that matter. Okay, now let's talk Mount Kenya. Now that you said it's important that we talk Mount Kenya before we exit the stage. And do you suppose there's a vacuum in the politics of Mount Kenya?
Well, looking at the Mount Kenya politics, I think it's the time we have a clear stand and a clear direction. And direction needs somebody to shape the direction. And this is now why it comes the issue about the vacuum and the kingpin. Because we have ended Kibaki, we've ended Uhuru, we have ended other likes even before. But now looking at this time, we are going to have a transition of power in the year 2022. Uhuru is going to retire as the president. And now we will need at least somebody who will be needed to voice the issues of Mount Kenya. But now looking Mount Kenya, people assume that Mount Kenya is only something for the central province. We have also Mount Kenya East, which covers the eastern part. That's the Meru, the Embu Tharaka. All that is Mount Kenya block. And I think for the first time in Kenyan politics, we've had other people outside the central province declaring interest or showing ability for them to succeed President Uhuru Kenyatta. And I want to tell you clearly in a broad daylight that we have people like Peter Munya from Meru County and Kidiki Kidora from the Kanidi, who the community itself have been fronting as a possible hire for the Mount Kenya thing. And this has been able to bring in friction between the central side because the richest voting block is in central. That's the Murang'a, Kirinyaga, Nyandarua, Kiambu. You know, that's rich. As in comparison, the Rakanidi and Meru is not all that voter rich, but at least they have somebody who they're trying to front. So the vacuum is there, and it's high time. I think Ben saying that Sometimes we jump too early. But I want to tell you that sometimes in politics, the early the better in terms of grooming somebody who has not been there. Because Uhuru, when Uhuru was being groomed that time, was not sure. At least it was the RDPM or somebody in the limelight, somebody known that this person even identified some presidential vision with Kibaki, and then it failed.
Right.
But now this time when you look, we don't have somebody at least of that caliber. That's why we are hearing of cabinet reshuffle.
Kinjuri wants to come in. Isn't Kinjuri strong enough? Doesn't he have stamina enough?
I think those who read through history have a richer understanding of things. In 1992, Matiba vied, Kibaki vied.
Yes.
You know, people always assume that Central Province has always voted as one bloc. It's a lie, it's a huge lie, it's a big lie.
Yeah.
Matiba got lots of votes in 1992, so did Kibaki.
So did Kibaki, yes.
We didn't have a kingpin as such. We had leaders. In 1997, Matiba vied. He was weaker than Kibaki, so Kibaki got more votes, but Moi still took over. In 2002, the Central Province vote was still split. Uhuru vied and Kibaki vied.
But the Karua was there when?
2002, she was still a baby somehow.
Okay, okay. Oh, all right.
So, and then come 2007, Kibaki vied. That was the first time I saw now Kikuyus having, as in one leader. It was Kibaki. But still so many small fragmented parties to the point that he even didn't have majority in parliament. He had to find a way to work with Kalonzo and so on and so forth. All I'm trying to say is that it is thoroughly wrong for people my generation to start thinking that Mount Kenya needs a kingpin and Western needs a kingpin and Coast needs a kingpin. We should be thinking of producing one leader who is acceptable across the board.
Okay.
And that's what helped Obama. Obama was not an Illinois kingpin. No. You need to come out so nicely, so strongly, so beautifully that people say, "Hiya, nani kazuri." And then they start asking, "Nani mkabila gani?" But that's after they've accepted that you're good. The problem is we do not have a leader right now, not in Mount Kenya, not in Western, who has presented themselves as acceptable across board. Kivutha Kibuna has been taunted and a few others, but we need to stop this nonsense, and I dare call it nonsense on national TV, of thinking that you want to become an inheritor of a tribal block of votes. Because then what you do is you become a tribal leader who has to negotiate with other tribal leaders.
Right.
And so you have a meeting of tribal leaders. And that is not a meeting for this nation. What we need to do is someone to wake up and sell themselves as a national leader. Someone who has got so much capacity to believe in themselves that they can even buy as independent and become president on an independent ticket. Na hiyo ndio kitu tumekosa. Sasa tunawakora tu huku who are just trying to sell their tribesmen. That's what they're all trying to do.
Yeah. All right, gentlemen. Time is not on our side. Tumemaliza. 30 seconds?
Yeah, but I think, yes. I think maybe to sum it up, it's the high time we have some sanity of thinking and looking at the direction which will be able to shape the country beyond just the politics of interest and have the leadership of purpose.
Yes, it's incumbent upon us to emancipate ourselves, as they would rightfully say. Thank you so much, Ben Kinuthia, lawyer. Thank you so much for the great insights. And Kaberia Bariu, thank you so much for the great insights also. Looking forward for another session some other time. And on that very note, Morning Cafe takes a short break. Quite important that I remind you that you can always be part of this discussion. 22047 is the SMS line that you can drop the messages on, and of course the number's rolling down on your screen. You can call us live and get to give us your feedback, or also just weigh in on the topics of discussion, or hashtag Morning Cafe at Linda_Alela at TV47. On that very note, let's take a short break and we'll be coming back with more as we also take a look at your feedback. Thank you.